Welcome back to my channel, Dr. Darks Does, and today we'll be talking about why I am moving from traditional publishing back into self-publishing. So first I want to talk about my journey as an author really fast. And I want to talk about the fact that I started out self-publishing in 2017. I published a book of poetry called Caged, a poetic collection of the African American experience. And that was my first ever hard copy book that I ever wrote. It was a book of poetry, and I sold it on the set on FAMU, Florida A&M's campus. And that's how I got my start. And I did that book. I then published a picture book called Wash Day, which is no longer available. I get a lot of heat for that I took it down. And then I published two parts of a chapter book series called The Fluffy Adventures of Fromo, A Sticky Situation, and then a second one that was Halloween themed. I took those down as well. And then I came out with Be Black Girl Be, signed to HarperCollins in 2020. And then it came out in 2024. And the book has been doing really, really well, Be Black Girl Be has. And I think when I talk about going back to self-publishing, it's that now that I've seen what traditional publishing looks like, I feel like I can make a very educated decision on what's best for me in my next book, which is the revamp of the book I mentioned before, The Fluffy Adventures of Fromo. So I know that I have talked about and raved about, my experience in traditional publishing, understanding that it was different from what other people had described to me. But I'm realizing that this next book I'm coming out with, The Fluffy Adventures of Fromo, really needs to be self-published. And I'm going to tell you why. So reason number one, it's Black AF. It is Black AF. And if there's anything I learned from publishing Be Black Girl Be in the traditional publishing space, is that although, there were publishers and editors and illustrators who really rallied around it, this amazing message and amazing story that I had put together, the marketing wasn't there. And that's not to say that I didn't love my traditional publishing experience. It's not to say that I didn't enjoy it. And I don't think the book turned out as amazing as it could be. But they have so many books that come out every year that it really doesn't get the attention that it may otherwise have gotten like 10 years ago, really. And I hear that that's because of like a change in publishing, kind of like away from marketing. I mean, now when you submit query letters, they ask some agents will ask your follower count. Like it's now on the hands of the writer or illustrator to get their book out there. And when I think of the reason I went to traditional publishing, it was for exposure. And I don't feel like the book got as much exposure as it could have. And although I did my best on my end, I feel like because of the changing landscape, specifically that my book was signed in 2020 and then came out in the election year, 2024, there just really wasn't room for a book like that. And that's how I felt in that process. And this is not a knock at my publisher. I think my publisher did an amazing job. Just looking at it and realizing like how far it could have gone with the correct like publishing resources, the correct marketing resources. And I just don't feel like it went as far as it did or it could have. So yeah. The second reason is rights to my art and merch rights. I get asked all the time, do I have any more dolls? I actually have a doll of my book. I'll put her right here. But I actually have a doll that goes with Be Black Girl Be, and I get asked all the time why I don't sell them. I get asked all the time why I don't make posters or keychains or little trinkets to sell at my book fairs, and it's because I literally can't. So because I did not create the art, I can't reproduce it for any kind of sale. I don't own it. And although completely understandable for a children's book, that kind of sucks because like people really like it and would love to have a doll to read the book with their kids with or some other thing to connect with the reading. I can't even sell stickers. Like it's very, very different. And that is something to consider when you are traditional publishing, especially if you are in the children's book space. I think it's different for like novels or young adult, That's the second reason. My third reason is this book is my baby. Be Black Girl Be was my baby. This book is my baby. You have to understand, I took this book down in 2021. I took this book down in 2021 and I have come back to it all these years later in 2025. And for those watching, I do plan on publishing it February 2027. You heard it here first. But I it's my baby, and I want complete creative control over this book. I want to be able to make the merch. I want to be able to play around with the formatting or the art, or I really want this to be about what I see, because I wrote this book because I love this concept and that I love this book. If you've ever heard me talk at any of my workshops or panels, you'll know that I write for myself. And that probably sounds really selfish, but I write what I want to read, and I write what I find funny, and I write what I would have loved as a kid. And in that sense, that's why this book is such like my baby, because it's like, it's an expression of who I am. And for this book, and this is not to say I won't go back to traditional publishing. I may make a video years from now, like, oh, why I'm going back to traditional publishing, right? But for this book, I want it to be all me. And that's what it's going to be. So at the end of this video, I really wanted to talk about what lessons I learned from traditional publishing, but also self-publishing. So traditional publishing, I learned that quality is everything. A lot of people who come up to my tables, they do not ask me if it's self-published. They literally don't care. Trust me. They don't ask. They literally just love the artwork. So shout out to my illustrator. But they're in love with the artwork. And the artwork is what sells the book in children's book publishing. You heard it here. You can have the best message in the world, the coolest message, the cutest message. If your artwork isn't the best quality, people are going to look past it. Now, the second thing I learned from traditional publishing is you need an editor. I don't care if it's a picture book. I don't care if it's a chapter book. I don't care if it's a graphic novel. Get that professional editor. My book grew so much with an editor. I mean, she really made it what it is. And although I obviously contributed all these words and all these themes and all these ideas, but to have someone else's eyes on it to guide me in a way to make it what it is now was, what's the right word for that? It was invaluable. It was just, it made it so great. And to see where it started to where it ended up is nothing short of having an amazing editor. So thank you. And then another lesson I learned from traditional publishing is you're still doing the legwork. Sorry if you see my cat's tail. You're still doing the legwork. A lot of the push for Be Black Girl Be was done by my publisher. Like, my publisher did a great job, like sending it out and putting it in newsletters and posting it for the history months and all these things. Like, they did a great job with that. But a lot of the community building is still on you. So don't think that, oh, I published this book, my publisher got it, I can just sit back. That a lot of times is not the case, especially if you're not a well-known author. Like, I'm kind of just coming up in the traditional publishing space, so people really didn't know me or have an attachment to me as an author. So I really had to sell that book, and I had to do that traditional publishing or self-publishing. It didn't matter. So lessons I learned from self-publishing. I learned that community is everything. When I went to Black Writers Weekend, this past few weeks ago, I really felt like I was in community. And being in community was definitely something that I missed with self-publishing, because from my personal experience, I cannot speak for anyone else. From my personal experience, self-publishing felt like community, while traditional publishing kind of feels like a silo. I really don't know any other traditionally published authors. It's been a year and a half since the book was published. Now, we're not talking about the 4 years it took to get here. I really don't know any other traditional published authors. I really haven't met any. I haven't really conversed with any, unless they were self-published prior and then got a publishing deal. Those are actually the only ones I know. But yeah, it's interesting, and it's not like a knock on traditional publishing. It's just, that's self-publishing. That's where the community is for me, and that's where my people are. And that's another reason I think I'm going to go back. The second lesson I learned from self-publishing is take your time. This is kind of a combination of traditional publishing, self-publishing, reflection, but you need to take your time. Don't put that book out the same year you came up with the idea. I'm speaking from experience. Don't do that. Don't do that. You need time to promote it. You need time to build up like energy around the idea and your book. And you should not publish it too fast. Take your time, get the editor, make those revisions over and over again. play around with the art, see what works, see what doesn't work, play around with the themes in the book, but you don't have to hurry up and rush. I feel like if you've seen Hamilton, like, why does he write like he's running out of time? Don't do that. You're not running out of time. You're exactly where you need to be. And your book's going to be amazing. Take your time with it because that matters. So yeah, to kind of close, I do want to point out that I don't think self-publishing or traditional publishing, like one's better than the other. I just feel like I'm in a space where self-publishing for this particular book, I may go back for my other books that I'm thinking about, but for this specific book, self-publishing is where I need to go. I want to make the merch. I want to make the stickers. I want to work hand in hand with the artist a little bit more than I did with traditional publishing. I want to I got a mentor and someone to help me really with the writing process. I really want to take my time with this one, but I do want complete control over it, and that's just the decision I've made. If you're interested in following the journey for my next book, you can follow it at Fromo Official. This is for the book, The Fluffy Adventures of Fromo. I cannot wait to share it with you and share all the fun goodies that are coming up. So yeah, I'll see you next time.